You are now watching the Amazing Mets pregame show with your hosts, Rob and CP.
Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets!
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to the Amazing Mets pregame show right here on both of our channels and, of course, on X. And, ladies and gentlemen, there will be an elimination game today, and it won't be the New York Mets. It would be the damn Philadelphia Phillies, and the Mets have the opportunity for the first time since 2000 NLCS with Mike Hampton on the mound to clinch a postseason series at home, and they could do it at Citi Field today. Chris, how are you feeling, my friend?
I'm feeling fantastic, Rob, and hopefully I'm feeling the same way for the post game today. We got you all with the post game, but listen, the Mets go out there, they do their thing. Whether you're superstitious, whether you're not superstitious, I'm not changing up the mojo. I'm not bringing any negative vibes to this Mets team. So therefore, as you all may have noticed on yesterday's pregame, we're back with the Hawaiian shirt on a Wednesday. We're rocking it. We are praying to the baseball gods that Jose Quintana delivers us a start like the last go around against the Phillies that he started. His last start in Milwaukee in Game 3 when the Mets' backs were against the wall. This is go time. The job is not done. Change the narrative. The Phillies' backs now are against the wall. You don't want to go back to Philadelphia. Get the job done tonight. Let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? This team has played so well in this series, right? There's been a couple of hiccups with the pitching, but overall, the Mets have outplayed the Phillies, and we talked about it on the post game yesterday. The Mets, I mean, the Phillies were this close of getting swept. Like they've been thoroughly outplayed by the Mets, and it's not even close. The Mets bullpen, even though it hasn't been spectacular, has been better than the Phillies, and that's kind of been the difference in this series. And then the best start from Manaea, that we've seen in the postseason for our Mets, and the domination there. And it shows you, and again, you don't play this game on paper, right? You can see the rosters and say, all right, this team's better than this team. You can look at the record and say this team's better than this team, but that really doesn't matter. Does it matter to the Padres when it comes to the Dodgers? No. Does it matter to the Mets with the Phillies? Absolutely not. Now, that doesn't mean the Dodgers and the Phillies can't win the next two games and head to the NLCS, right? That's always a possibility, and we are respectful of that. But as well as the Mets played in this series so far, there's no reason why we can't be confident in our team. Now, the nerves are going to be there, but we're confident because 19 runs in 3 games in this series, I'm pretty sure this team, they're going to go out and score runs again, especially at home, Chris. So I'm ready to go. We're about, hour and a half away until game time. I can't wait. I really can't wait. Elimination game for the Phillies, and the Mets have that opportunity the first time at home since 2000. It's awesome. Awesome feeling.
Nobody told anybody it was going to be easy, right? Again, we are definitely not naive to the fact that, the Philadelphia Phillies, as the same circumstance happened with the Mets in Milwaukee, when you have a team that's playing with their season on the line, they are playing hard and they are playing a little bit more juiced up. And that could either be an advantage or a disadvantage. So we'll see how that plays for the Phillies tonight. But again, if you're the New York Mets, you cannot start off game, or you have to, I should say, start the game off strong. Yesterday, they did that. What do we talk about in the pregame, Rob? What were we watching? Right?
Yep.
What were we watching for? Sean Manaea going out there and posting an early 0, and he did it in the first inning. Yeah. And getting all out to that lead was the most important thing for the New York Mets, and boom, Pete Alonso delivers, right? That's what we need to continue to do as a team. Get to Ranger Suarez early. He's been pretty decent against the Mets this season, right? Pretty decent. He hasn't been spectacular. I think the Mets have made him work in his outings against the Mets. But again, they haven't really had that total run production against him this season so far. That needs to change tonight. Jose Quintana, same thing. And honestly, yesterday, right, just to rehash some things that we might have said in the post game or even in the pregame, the contact that the Phillies were getting in the first couple of at-bats against Sean Manaea kind of had me a little bit scared. I'm not going to lie to you, especially that first ball off of Schwarber and his bat deep to center field on the warning track, right into the glove of Tyrone Taylor. You talk about two sharp balls that were hit from the Phillies 2 and 3 batters in Turner and Bryce Harper thereafter, but he settled down. The location was working. The sweeper, he was setting guys up, right, with that upstairs fastball. And I know it gets a little bit dangerous, but this is today's game, day in game, right? Like this is the age of baseball where hitters have uppercut swings. They have uppercut swings. And you got to live upstairs in the zone. And conversely, not conversely, but also just going and supporting that fact, Jose Quintana in his last start in Milwaukee, you look at the Savant page, the sinker that he loves to throw and the four-seamer, which he throws a little bit less often, he was living upstairs with it. And he was up that curveball. I'm looking for a lot of changeups and a lot of curveballs today because that's something that I definitely noticed Jose Quintana the last go-round against the Brewers is that he threw his curveball infinitely more than his previous couple starts. So, again,
absolutely.
Set him up, baby. Start the game off strong and build that momentum.
Yeah, absolutely. And you saw how they were starting to chase. They were starting to press a little bit, right? When inning by inning, when it got later and later into the ball game, they started pressing. And that's exactly what they're going to start out pressing right away. And again, they're going to be swinging for the fences, right? They know that's their best way to win a ball game, hitting balls over the fence. They're going to overswing. They're going to try to do too much. And Jose, I think this is the perfect scenario where I think if you're being extremely aggressive and you got a hard thrower on the mound, it can bite you in the ass a little bit. But with Jose Quintana and with his different type of pitches and all the different type of speeds, and he's not going to throw 98. I think he's going to fool a couple of these guys. I think they're going to try to do too much. You're going to see him out in front a lot, and I think that's what Jose Quintana's got to do. He's got to use their aggressiveness to his advantage. And we all know Jose Quintana needs at least 2 pitches working for him to have any type of good start. But he has been over the last 5-6 starts, and he was outstanding in the Brewers game. So, I don't expect anything less. Now, do I expect them to put up zeros? I'd hope so, right? But
yeah, we'll see.
The Phillies are a dangerous team, right? There's no mistake about that. Just because they haven't really shown it in this series doesn't mean that they can't pop 7 on the board today. They absolutely can. They absolutely can. But the way Jose Quintana is pitching, and we talked about it in the post game after Game 3 when we won the series, Jose Quintana just looked calm. He looked poised. He didn't look nervous. He didn't take deep breaths, right? That's why I love those guys in those situations and a situation like today when he can be one of the guys to advance us to the NLCS. I like guys that breathe easy, don't care what the moment is. They just do their job. And Jose Quintana is a guy that does their job. And the Mets overall, for the most part, have done their job in this series and limit the mistakes. If you limit the mistakes, you got a good chance of winning because the Phillies are a flawed team, right? Just because you won a division doesn't mean you're not a flawed team, right? We just beat a division winner with flaws, but they had, in my opinion, less flaws than the Phillies because the Phillies are a big strikeout hitting team, and the only way they can win is by the home run ball. And I think that is key in this series at this point. And I think Jose Quintana is going to exploit that today.
Keep them in the ballpark. That's the most important thing. And what you said a couple days ago on one of our streams, Rob, keep them in the ballpark. That is the bread and butter for the Phillies lineup. That's how they get their runs. I'm not as convinced, right? And maybe that changes today. Let's knock on some wood. Hopefully it doesn't, right? Maybe they string a couple hits together to produce some runs. But the majority of the time, you give up a 2-out single. You give up a 2-out walk. Next batter up comes and hits a home run, and that's how they score their runs in bunches. So do not let that happen. First of all, I want to make sure that everybody also, as it relates to this pitching matchup, realizes that these two pitchers are pretty much one and the same, right? They use their sinker, the two-seamer. They're both lefties, right? Both southpaws. The sinker's the primary pitch, and they love to just throw junk at the opposing hitters, right? I think Jose Quintana tries to establish his off speed a little bit more than Ranger Suarez does. But again, you talk about them both being lefties and both of them not throwing hard and having to utilize their third and fourth and fifth pitches. That's what both of these guys do. So both of these lineups are going to be basically facing the same type of pitcher. And that's going to be something that's going to be, honestly, at this point, fun to watch. Here's our junk baller lefty. Here's yours, right? Jose Quintana is a little bit, older in terms of the veteran leadership that he provides. But let's see. Best junk ball lefty wins, right, for this team. So again, something to also watch out for, and I completely agree with Ethan in this chat. I completely agree with it, is that I think that Mendoza is going to have a quick hook with Jose Quintana should he get into some trouble. And my live chat poll, if you're on my live chat right now, and Cindy also said it as well, if you're on my live chat poll, the question that I have for you all is, who do you think is going to be the first one out of this Mets bullpen? Should that be the case? Should Jose Quintana, let's hope not, but let's say he gets in some early trouble, because we were talking about it yesterday on the post game. Could be David Peterson. I'm pretty confident it's going to be David Peterson. But you know what? You're seeing this, right, in the San Diego Padres organization right now. This is a little bit of a different scenario because they had an injury to Joe Musgrove that they didn't foresee. So they're throwing Dylan Cease on some short rest, but they're actually starting him, which hasn't been done in a couple of years' time. They're kind of rewriting that script there because that was something that we saw in baseball just a couple of years ago, and it's kind of disappeared. But if you want to change up the look, right? If you want to change up the Phillies bat speeds from going to 90 to 91 to go to maybe like a 97, 98, this is kind of out there. This might be a crazy take. And I'm not saying this is going to happen because I'm not confident in it. But if it's all hands on deck and this next pitcher is not even scheduled to start next game, should there be a game 5, are we positive that Luis Severino isn't available today out of the bullpen, Rob? Are we positive in that? That's a drastic difference for a Phillies lineup to see Jose Quintana and then Luis Severino. And I understand that David Peterson, again, is good. He's great out of the bullpen, especially his last go-around, right? He closed that game in Milwaukee. He came out for 3 scoreless innings in NLDS Game 1 to help the Mets stay in that ball game. But I take a look at the differences. The only reason why I wouldn't do that is because you're going to have to utilize the Phillies then can switch up their personnel because there's going to be a righty on the mound. And surprisingly enough, if you go and look at the Phillies lineup tonight, it actually has a couple of lefties in there when they have their righty counterparts. Rob Thompson is starting Brandon Marsh. He's starting Bryson Stott, and I forgot who else he's starting in left field. But again, it's kind of unusual because you see the managers, and the Mets did it today as well, in terms of throwing JD Martinez out there instead of Jesse Winker. But that's the only reason why I would say maybe no Luis Severino, just save him for the next game, is maybe the matchups. But what do you think about that, Rob? I'm kind of curious.
It would be interesting because it is his throw day, so it would actually make sense to do that if you're really thinking about it, because you would have a couple of days off before the NLCS if you do win today. So it would be interesting. I don't think they'll go that route. It would be crazy though if he does that. But again, you don't want to get into a situation where he throws too many pitches if he gets a little bit in trouble. We know with the 3 batter rule, you get 2 guys out of the 3, have 8, 9, 10 pitch at bats. He's in the 30 to 40 pitch range, and that's when you get a little, worrisome with that, because that's more than a throw day. But would I be shocked? No, because Mendoza has done these, sometimes he's done it in the postseason already. He already showed you. He did it with McGill in this series. He did it with Peterson in the last series. So I do think that it really depends. And look, Rob Thompson's putting the lefties in there. He's going with his best lineup regardless of the matchups. That's what he's doing at this point, right? Their backs are against the wall. We all know that. They know that. Everybody in that building knows that. So, I mean, you can't bench Stott for, Sosa. You just can't do that. Or, anybody else you want to bench who is not playing well. You have to play the guys who got you there. And, Bohm the same thing. If you're not going to play him, it's so odd. But he's going to play everybody that has gotten him there during the season. And that's okay. The Mets are kind of doing it. You just said it. JD Martinez, right? He's in there over Winker, which makes sense, right? It's not all the time you're going to see Winker against a lefty. Now, Winker might come up in a big spot against a righty bullpen arm, excuse me. So we'll see. But, I mean, I would be shocked if it is Severino. I honestly think it really depends on where Quintana is going to come out of the game and where the lineup is for the Phillies. Like, if it's a couple of righties in a row, I think he might go to McGill, to be quite honest. If Quintana gets, in trouble early, I think it will be McGill, right? Because even though they're not really playing matchups today, Rob Thompson and the Phillies, I would still go to a guy who can give you length, and Severino probably can't at this point, because if it's his throw day, he's probably not going to go past 30 to 35 pitches, and all you're doing is, risking him getting hurt. Not saying he will, but one bad throw, one bag, step on the bag the wrong way, whatever it might be. I don't think they're going to risk that. So I think Tyler McGill would be the first one up there if Quintana gets in trouble early. And look, Mendoza has options, which is perfect, right? You can use Peterson and McGill if you wanted to, right? I mean, you're going to have a couple of days off anyway. What if they use both of them and match it up, right? Oh, I'm going to use McGill for 2. If Quintana only goes, say, 3 for whatever reason, and McGill goes 2, Peterson goes 2, and then he gets to the back end of the bullpen. You could do that as well. I mean, there's no rule for that. So it's going to be very interesting what Mendoza is going to do today. I think he's got to play it, not like an elimination game, but a little bit of a way that that you don't want to go back to Philly. Like, by any means necessary, it's probably a stretch because you're not eliminated if you lose today. And I think a lot of Met fans are going to act like they got eliminated today if they lose, and that's not the case. I think Mendoza is going to be a little careful, but aggressive at the same time, if that makes any sense.
Oh, it does make sense. I think that the consensus here, from what I'm gathering and what we know, is that Mendoza has a plethora of options. He has a plethora of different routes he can go. Obviously, Ryan Stanek in 1 1/3 innings pitched last night only threw 13 pitches. So I'm assuming late in the ball game, if it's close, he's going to be right back out there. Obviously, you didn't use Edwin Diaz in the win last night. He's going to be refreshed and ready to go. You're going to have Jose Buto, who I know has been struggling again. I understand, but I think that he's going to be probably ready to go. And then I think Tyler McGill and David Peterson are going to be waiting. It wouldn't shock me as well, as we stated yesterday, that, it's obvious that Tyler McGill is better out of the bullpen as a long man, as opposed to if he's called upon just like providing 1 inning of work. But again, it's going to be all matchups based. It's going to be, are there lefties coming up in this lineup that has, 3, 4 lefties, right, at any given time? Maybe even more than that, right? Especially with Schwarber, Harper, Stott, Marsh, and at least I would say maybe one more left in there if I'm not mistaken. But anyways, it's going to be matchup based. But again, the bullpen working has been an absolute tremendous, there's been tremendous decisions that have been made. Whether you and I agree with them at the time, whether it work out in hindsight or not, it doesn't matter, because the guy that's ultimately in charge of that decision is Carlos Mendoza, and he has done a great job. By the way, something that I didn't know as of last night, but I know now in terms of what it's, how it was reported, I believe, by Tim Healy on X, was that Jeremy Hefner and John Gibbons actually told Mendoza to go and yank Sean Manaea when he got into that trouble with first and second, nobody out, with Harper coming up. And Mendoza basically went with his gut, as he usually does. And guess what? It ended up paying off. He gets the strikeout of Harper, who honestly, I was looking at a breakdown on MLB Network this morning of that at bat from Harper. Sean Manaea had him so damn fooled in that at bat. If you look at his 2-strike stance, no stride on his back leg, literally just trying to make contact. And if you know Bryce Harper and the violent swings that he takes with the leg kick and just like being an overall menace with his swing, bat speed, etc., for a pitcher to do that and get him on his back legs trying to stay back, no stride, and just trying to put contact on the ball and still strikes out on a sweeper that was off the zone, out of the zone, that is not easy to do, especially when you're already in a jam and you have the middle of their lineup coming up. So credit to Sean Manaea for executing, but also, the utmost credit to Carlos Mendoza not listening to the voices in his ear and his coaches, right? You always want to take everybody's perspective into consideration if you're a manager. That's why you have the veteran as your bench coach as well, and Jeremy Hefner, who, whether people like him or not, doesn't really matter. We know that the pitching staff has taken a step up this year and that he's been here for such a long time. But for Carlos Mendoza to just listen to that and just be like, nah, my pitcher's got this. Hold on, watch this. It speaks volumes. It speaks volumes. Manager of the year. Period. That's it.
Yeah, it was a masterclass yesterday by Mendoza. Like it was just, he could have easily went to the veteran, bench coach. He could have just Gibbons. He could have just listened to him, right? Why wouldn't you, right? A ton of experience, but Mendoza knows his guys. Mendoza trusts his guys, and we talked about this many times on many shows. When the manager trusts you and the players believe that the manager trusts you, regardless if it's the pitcher or if it's the defense pitcher or offensive side, the players stop believing in the choices that Mendoza, your manager, makes. And I think that's key, right? Manaea probably in the back of his head was like, shit, they might take me out of this ball game. He didn't want to come out of that ball game. He wanted that standing ovation that he deserved, right? If he would have gave up a run or two and it would have been a whole new ball game, he would have came out of the game and Met fans would be getting a little nervous. There wouldn't be no boo birds because he didn't deserve that. But there'll be a little bit of, of that nervous chatter that you hear in stadiums when things are not going so well for your team. So that's just Mendoza once again going with his gut. And this is a guy that will use analytics, but he's not afraid to go with that gut feeling. And I love that about him, right? You can't say that about a lot of managers nowadays. They go completely by the book and matchups, analytics, all that nonsense. Sometimes you got to have the feel of the game. In that inning, it's not like Manaea was, getting completely rocked, and he looked off. So, he was still pitching extremely well up until that point. I mean, if they would have pulled him and we would have lost the game, that would have been the talk of the game. And again, Mendoza believed in his guy. Why not believe in your ace? If you're not going to believe in your ace, who are you going to believe in? Who are you ever going to keep in? This guy has proven to be an ace this year for your team. I would rather Manaea lose it himself than taking him out and letting Joe Schmo in the bullpen lose the game for us. I'd rather go down with the guy who got us to help us get there than a guy in the bullpen that are, for the bullpens in the playoffs are crapshoots. Let's be honest. I'd rather go with Manaea there, and Mendoza did, and it paid off. Now, it could have backfired, and then there would have been some that said he should have took Manaea out, but he got the job done. He believed in his player, believed in his pitcher, believed in his ace, and it paid off. And the Mets are one game away from the NLCS, and a lot has to do with Carlos Mendoza.
Yeah. I just had a random thought as I was kind of typing the Lindor emoji in my live chat for all the members to use on my channel. I'm pretty sure I called the Lindor bounce back game yesterday. I know he went 1 for 5, but that first at bat that he had, he almost parked one. I thought it was going out. I mean, he was right on Aaron Nola. So
I jumped up out of my seat.
Yeah. I jumped up and I was just like, that was refreshing to see out of the gate against Aaron Nola, even though it resulted in an out. So I want to see more of the same today. I think the formula is simple. Make these opposing pitchers work. And let's be honest, last night, right, even though he gave up a couple of solo home runs, Aaron Nola, for the better part of the first couple of innings, really wasn't working. He wasn't throwing that many pitches. And I say this as a person who always preaches, right? Be aggressive. If you get your pitch early in the count, take a hack at it, take a swing, etc. But there is a certain method to the madness of being a little bit more patient, especially in this series, because the Phillies bullpen has nothing on the New York Mets. They have
Great.
nothing. Rob Thompson tried to get some production out of Jose Alvarado last night, first time that we've seen him in this series, and he had nothing. He had to throw Estevez in there in the last inning. A run scored, and he threw 20 plus pitches. They have nothing on this Mets lineup. The Mets lineup, as soon as the opposing, starting pitcher is out of the game, they're licking their chops. They're like, yes, this is exactly what we want. We've got them where we want them. That's what you need to do. In this game, the formula is simple, and it's the same one that you took from games 1, 2, and 3. Kick Ranger Suarez out of the game, get to the bullpen because you've already seen Hoffman a couple of times. You've already seen Strom a couple of times. You've seen Estevez a couple of times. There's really nobody in that bullpen that should scare you. Nobody.
Nope.
And that's where the Mets line up with as much runs as they've been putting out there. And in this series, that should be the goal. Get Ranger Suarez, put up a couple runs against him, but get him out of the game. Get him out of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, that's been the story of the series right here, right? The Mets got to the Phillies bullpen, right? You had quality starts from even Severino had quality start for the most part. It comes down to the bullpen. The Mets bullpen has just been a little bit better than the Phillies bullpen, and the Mets, for the most part, again, has controlled the offense of the Philadelphia Phillies. And the bullpen can't do it at all for the Phillies. They can't shut us down. They've used a ton of pitching. They used their high leverage guys. They've thrown a ton of pitches in 3 games. And now, everybody's going to be available for them. Whenever they think it's a big moment, which is probably be every inning for them, they're hoping Suarez gives them at least 5. But the Mets' job is to get him out before that. Get him out before that and let him use even more pitchers in this game. Because if the circumstance happen, if the result happens that this team loses today, and you got to play a game 5, at least you can do everything you can to get to their bullpen in game 5 that has struggled, that has pitched a lot in this series.
This is a good comment, Rob, by Oliver. And I'm not going to lie, if the Phillies are in a position to win this ball game and do anything necessary to get back to Philly, do you think they throw Wheeler in this game for an inning or 2?
I don't think so.
I wouldn't put it past them. I would not put it past them.
I wouldn't, though, but because, like I said, if it backfires, they're going home for the off season. But if that was the case, you might as well start him and let him be an opener for like 2-3 innings, to be quite honest, and then piggyback Suarez for him. I don't see them doing that. I still believe this. I believe that they still believe that that this series is over in the favor of them. I truly believe that. Like, they know there's pressure on them, but they're still going about it with their 4th starter. Their 4th best starter in an elimination game. There's not many teams that would do that. They would throw their ace on short rest. Let's be honest about that. Why he hasn't done that, I don't know. But, it's not like, Suarez is a guy that, has been good in the second half, really good in the second half or anything like that. So it's very odd because Rob Thompson gives me signs of, I told you, with the roster, how they only put 4 starters on the roster. And it kind of made me feel like they don't take this series seriously with the Mets because they think they can beat them. And I think with this, I truly believe that they think that that they have probably a better chance of them winning the series than the Mets, in my opinion.
They can, but when you get down to it, right, in the philosophy of going down with your best, if you're gonna lose tonight, right, and if there's a situation where you can avoid by any stretch of the imagination, not being eliminated today, just to fight and see that fifth game, I'm not gonna lie, I would not be shocked if maybe if especially if maybe Philly has a lead where it's like 2-1 or like something very close, because as we said in the first like 6 or 7 innings of these ball games, right? We pointed this out in the pregame yesterday. It's been very close. Not one team has really jumped out to a substantial edge in the first couple of innings of this game, especially up until the fifth inning. But I'm telling you, if it's a close ball game, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to expect to see Zach Wheeler there because they still have Christopher Sanchez available on regular rest that they can throw on
True.
Friday. And again, these teams, you understand, especially if you're Rob Thompson, you cannot lose a game 4 to the Mets without at least throwing your best, which is Zach Wheeler. You can't do it. You have to mitigate that at all costs. And you're going to go out there and try. Like, this is their end. And this is why I think we're going to see Zach Wheeler in this game in one form or the other. Whether it's the first guy after Ranger Suarez, which I'm not really confident in, but definitely maybe to close out an eighth inning, right? If you had the top of the Mets lineup, 100% if you have the Mets in the top of the lineup, right, coming up in the ninth inning, I'm definitely expecting to see, screw that entire bullpen. That's what I think Rob Thompson's going to do. He's going to say, screw that entire bullpen. I'm throwing Zach Wheeler out there because guess what? Even if Zach Wheeler goes out there and throws one inning, 15 pitches, I bet you he's still going to be good to go for Friday. He's just that type of workhorse. And that's the amount of respect I have for him. So I would just not be shocked. I would just say that right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be very interesting. Like, it's an intriguing game today, right? We all know the situation. We don't have to repeat it 150 times, but yeah, it's very interesting. Like, I, you know, I don't. I always, starting this series, I felt like Philly didn't take us seriously at all. Like, I heard Sports Talk Radio, in Philly, the way they went about their roster, it all felt like they didn't take this seriously. Like, they were going to cakewalk through this series and head to the NLCS and wait for the Dodgers and the Padres, whoever wins, and then they'll face them. I truly believe that. And the Mets winning game 1 kind of knocked them off their high horse there, and it rattled them a little bit. And credit to them that they came back and won game 2, at the skin of their teeth. But if you give them truth serum, they know that this series should have been over already. That's a fact. And they're taking their lucky stars right now that they still have a series to have a chance of winning. And can they do it? Absolutely. So look, it goes a lot of different ways, because you could say that the Phillies are rattled. They can be shaken. They can be, squeezing that bat tighter. They can, they know their back's up against the wall. But at the same time, they've have a ton more experience than us in the postseason, in elimination games, in situations like this. So, it's not fair to say that they're rattled and they're not going to be able to turn this around and get to a game 5 and possibly win the series. I think that they probably are a little bit more poised and calmer than probably yesterday, right? They felt the environment. They got a day in New York. They slept in their hotels. They had a full day of everything. They know what to expect today. And that's always a dangerous team, right? Backs up against the wall, and they know what to expect. Even though I think the fan base is going to be even louder today and even more crazy today as well. I truly think that the Phillies, you're going to see a Phillies team that we probably haven't seen in this series. Now, that doesn't mean the Mets can't win this ball game. They absolutely can. But you're going to see a different side of the Phillies today. And the Mets have to make sure that they don't let it get to the point where the momentum shifts in this game. That's what they need to avoid. And by the way, speaking of fans, Can Fox lower the volume on crowd noise any lower? Even though the crowd was loud as hell and you can tell, it was clear what they did. And we know about the Fox broadcast. I just had to bring that up because
I don't
I'm
like it.
watching. Yeah,
Yeah, I
like
don't
they
like that.
clearly raised the volume at Citizens Bank, and here they clearly lowered the volume on the crowd noise at Citi Field, even though it didn't really help. But you knew I had to put my volume up to like 50 just to hear them speak because they were changing the volume so much during that game. Sorry, I just had to say that. But
Well,
yeah,
I agree. No, the broadcast, I've definitely I've made a point. The ESPN, right? TBS, Fox, they're all the same. They're trash, but we have to live with it. It's playoff baseball. Listen, I know we're talking about the game here, but Daniel Cap, shout out to Daniel Cap, said something absolutely true here that I want to just sort of just say on stream here because I know that, Carlos, my guy Carlos here in the chat, and a lot of subscribers that watch these daily streams, both on my channel and your channel, live in Florida. And we all know what's happening with the weather, with the hurricane, Milton, category 5, all that. It's scary. Just want to say, hopefully, prayers to you and your family, first of all, if you're in Florida and are going to be impacted by this, or if you're just anywhere in the area that this is supposed to impact, hopefully you've, been evacuated safely. Hopefully everything is okay. And I just want to say that I know that we're talking about baseball here, but life is bigger than just baseball sometimes. So I wanted to throw that out there, and just say that definitely on behalf of both of us, for sure. Hayden, who we do regular streams with, he's also in Florida. Um, I think he's safe as well. We made sure to check in on him, but that is first and foremost. Stay safe. Praying for you all. It's
yeah.
a really rough time for native Floridians and anyone in that state. I know a couple people outside of this whole YouTube thing and this whole Mets thing that live in Florida. Checked on them. All good. Just prayers up, 100%.
Yeah, I think Ken is in the near the Miami area. I think that's where he's at. Damn, Ken,
Ken
it didn't blow
too.
you. Yeah, Ken, if it blows you away, just make sure you have your passport to come back. All right, but no, be safe, buddy. I always message you, Ken, always, but always be safe. Be careful, Fort Lauderdale. Okay, so just be careful. So that's more eastern part of the state, but it's hitting most of the state, if not all. So, and you're gonna feel even if you're on the outside of the major eye, it's a little it's still dangerous with the winds and all that craziness. But yeah, man, that's a scary ass hurricane. I mean, having two back to back basically, and there was a tornado in Fort Myers that hit that touched down on Fort Myers. Like Jesus Christ, like be careful, guys. Life is more important than baseball. Even though we think baseball is life, sometimes the way we act, but
Right.
again,
100%.
always stay safe, guys, and do what you need to do to keep yourself and your family safe for sure. And that's basically our prayers to you guys. Even though we got game 4 of a postseason game, and that it doesn't matter because lives matter more for sure. That's a good job by you, Chris.
Yeah, yeah. Just wanted to state that. But, again, in terms of this game, you know, it's simple. And I think exactly what you just said, right, just a couple minutes ago, is that this is a game where, again, the other team is going to be playing juiced up. They are going to be trying to go after it, especially taking maybe some early gambles, some early risks to try to swing that momentum to their side. In the NLDS game, two that they won in a walk-off, Rob, you said it perfectly in that they just seemed relieved more so than happy that they finally came through. And so I'm not sure what their mentality is as a team, but you can expect them to come out, especially early, and just be a little bit more aggressive and try to push the envelope. You have to be wary of that if you're Jose Quintana. So again, be around the strike zone, but don't make any mistakes because they're juiced up. Again, they're going to be swinging because they're trying to make something happen. And offensively, you got to just put that constant pressure from at bat one, make them work, Make Ranger Suarez throw as many pitches as possible and just do damage with any mistakes he leaves over the heart of the plate. Sit fastball. It's the two seam. He throws it at about 90, 91. Not going to overpower you. You have to sit fastball and adjust off speed. They're going to try to push the envelope. Don't let them. That is the strategy and the name of the game if you're the New York Mets, Jose Quintana, and this lineup today.
Yeah, you got to use their aggressiveness to their advantage. That's 100%. You know, they're going to be extremely aggressive. They're going to try to jump out early, and that's where Jose Quintana. This is where I want to see Jose Quintana work around the plate a little bit. Don't you want to get ahead in counts, absolutely, but make them make the mistake right at the plate, right? Make them fish. Right. If you don't see them doing it, all right, then you start throwing your game and pound the zone a little bit, work inside and all that. But look, you got two lefties coming up in the first three batters. I think you got to, especially with Schwarber, play around a little bit. See if they're fishing. See if they're aggressive early because they're trying to look. They're going to try to hit every ball over the wall. I keep saying that. It's been such a trend with the Philadelphia Phillies over the last 3 years. Go back years in the playoffs with them. When they lose ball games in the postseason, they don't hit the home runs and their offense struggles and they get too tight. They get aggressive, way too aggressive, and the pitchers exploit that aggressiveness. And that's exactly what Quintana and the other Mets pitchers got to do. And listen, what did we talk about with Manaea yesterday? Put up a 0 in the first and let the offense start cooking right away. Put up that 0, get the crowd jumping at Citi Field going into the bottom of the first, and guess what? Put some runs on the board, and then the pressure is even more mounted on the shoulders of the Philadelphia Phillies. That's what you got to do. Don't let up. Keep that foot on the throat. And we should be talking about a post game where the New York Mets are advancing. And if they do that, if they can do that and limit their mistakes, I think we're talking about a W at the post game. Now, that's not a jinx. That's just confidence in their ability to do their job. They've been doing the job than Philly.
Don't fall down that path.
No, it's true. It's true though, because if they do their job, they should win the ball game. Because the Phillies have made a tremendous amount of mistakes in this series, and it cost them almost every time against the Mets. The Mets have limited the mistakes, and it benefited them. And that has nothing to do with a jinx. It really just has to do with the confidence level of this team doing their job, because it's been proven in this postseason so far. They do their job, limit their mistakes, they're in good shape. And that's the way I feel going into this game and Game 4 in Citi Field.
Yeah, and I see there's a Phillies fan, Jake. Jake is in your chat right now. He says, Phil's fan here. Whatever happens tonight, just want to say lots of respect to your team. Best of luck. We appreciate it. Thank you. Likewise, Jake. How confident are you in Quintana tonight? Listen, this guy has absolutely proven me wrong especially through the last stretch of the season. I was wrong about Jose Quintana. I'm going to sit here, look at this camera, pretend I'm looking at all of your faces, and sit here, especially look at Rob, a guy that was riding with Jose Quintana every time. I was like, send this guy away at the trade deadline. I don't want him here. I said it. You guys can rewind it. I'm not going to tell you something different because I said it. I still, Rob, it pains me to say this, but I'm still, again, you have to be perfect with your locations. You have to be perfect with your spots, your pitch sequences, especially if you're not pumping 96, 97, 98. And you see, even with Luis Severino against good lineups like the Phillies have, even if you are pumping, fastballs that fast, you can still get the wrong pitch sequence and they can still do damage against you. And so that's why I'm always even keel 50% on Jose Quintana and his starts. I'm rooting for the guy. I think that he's been obviously probably one of the better starting pitchers for the Mets, especially down the stretch when September came around. That is not a question. And obviously we know what he did in Game 3 in Milwaukee. But to answer your question straight up, I hope he does well, but I'm always going to ride into these Jose Quintana starts with the 50-50 confidence. I'm just going to be even keel, cautiously optimistic, but not expecting an absolute gem that he was able to turn out in Milwaukee. Like, I don't think even Rob is expecting that. We're just expecting him to keep it close. And hopefully, with the veteran, presence that he provides, which is why the whole reason that Rob wanted him here for situations like this to have as a veteran presence. First of all, Rob, you were absolutely correct. I'm going to own up to that. So tip of the cap to Jose Quintana. Absolutely. Yes. But again, I'm 50-50 right now.
Yeah, we know what Quintana has to do to have a good game, right? He's been doing it more often than not as of late, if not almost every time over the last month and a half. He's been that good. But he does need at least 2 pitches to be successful. He does need to be almost perfect to be successful. He's been finding ways to do that. But again, I'm sticking with my guy. I am. I've been with him the whole time. I patted him on the back many, many times. I'm not backing down now in game 4 when we can eliminate the Phillies. I'm going to try. Look, you're at home. You got everything going in your favor. And that's why I said, if you limit the mistakes at home, you really do have a good shot. You really do. And this goes for Quintana as well. You see that, and look, it's cool. It's starting to get that fall, cool, crisp air at Citi Field. The ball is not traveling. You got to hit line drives out of there, unless your Winker, who just demolished the ball. You saw their long fly balls barely had warning track power. That's the other thing too, right? The air is getting thicker. The air is cooling off. It's harder to hit the home run ball, and they can hit it with the best of them. And I do think with Jose Quintana, I love the cool, calm, and collective veteran on the mound. I always love him in those spots. Always, always, always. And not saying they're always going to come through, but I just feel confidence. Like, I was so confident in Quintana going into the Brewers game that when I was watching him on the mound during that game and tough situations when he was, in a little bit of trouble, he looked like he was just, excuse my French here, but it looked like he was just taking a piss and just chilling. Like, I swear to God, he looked like he was just, I'm in a playoff game. He didn't feel that way. It just felt like it was a normal game from him, game 145 of the season. And that's why I always was behind Jose Quintana, because he's been there, done that. He's a guy that does not get rattled, even when things are not going right for him. He's just poised. He doesn't take a deep breath. I don't know if he does this breathing mechanisms or what, but this guy did not even break a sweat in that Brewers game. And it's amazing to me. And again, that doesn't mean he's going to pitch well today. But I'm more confident in Quintana at this point than I am Luis Severino, to be quite honest with you, because, Luis Severino is prone to the home run ball, very quickly. Like, you'll know if Jose Quintana doesn't have it, like, very quickly. I mean, he can find it, but, you don't want the Phillies to, beat up on him before he finds it. I trust Jose Quintana today. I know a lot of people still don't. And you said you're 50-50, Chris. I'm all in on it.
Yeah. I was going to say, to clarify, I'm not saying that I don't trust Jose Quintana. I'm just saying I'm 50-50 on it. Like, I think that he's earned that cautious optimism. And to maybe the average fan and the normal fan, right? I just have this thing in the back of my head that it's just like, no, I see a guy throwing 90-91. But again, the Phillies are the same way. They have the same type of pitcher on the mound. So it's kind of like an even matchup at this point. So I agree with you. The historical data backs Jose Quintana because he's been there, done that. And I'm not confident in Jose Quintana. So I hope that anybody that's watching this, right, doesn't get that perception. I'm confident in Jose Quintana, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you that he's going to go 7 scoreless. That's just not what my mind gravitates toward with Jose Quintana.
So I'm just looking at the weather in New York right now. The wind is 10 to 15 miles an hour right now, and it's probably going to get a little bit worse throughout the night. And if you've been to Citi Field before in October or late September, sometimes when it gets a little bit cooler, you're by the water. The wind's going to pick up a little bit more. So that 10 to 15 in that area is probably going to be between 15 to 20, if not more. So, depending on where the wind's blowing, and it usually swirls at Citi Field. It could be blowing right field or left field. It can change directions in a moment's notice. So it's going to be very interesting today. If the long ball is difficult today because of the wind, doesn't that favor the Mets? Because last time I checked, the only team that has benefited from not hitting home runs was the team from New York in the New York Mets, who can beat you in two different ways: the home run ball and beating you down little by little with the base hits. That's what they can do. And that's why this team is dangerous, right? And they're much dangerous than the 2022 Mets because they seem like they never hit home runs and was just base hitting you to death. And when they didn't do that, they were in trouble. This team is, I said it a couple of times already on multiple shows, it's a Swiss Army knife. That's what they are. They can beat you in many different ways offensively. And that's why this team is dangerous. And that's why, let's be honest, that's why the team, like the Phillies, have had trouble with the New York Mets. It's hard to control a team when you're facing them in a short series when it comes to they can beat you. And they did it in game 1, and they did it in game 3, and they almost did it in game 2. You continue that, it's going to be hard to beat us. And they got to go out there, do their job, limit the mistakes, and I feel confident. What are your final thoughts, Chris, before we say goodbye and see everybody on the postgame?
Yeah, I mean, the lineup's got to go out there and get it done again. We need run production. We need a similar performance, to what we saw the last couple of days. The offense has just been absolutely getting it done, first and foremost. If Ranger Suarez, if they're able to kick him out of the ball game in the 5th or 6th inning, if it's still close, again, I am almost sure that we are going to see Zach Wheeler today out of the pen in some sort of capacity. I just have that feeling. For those of y'all who actually don't know, I think Daniel Murphy is throwing the first pitch out in today's ball game. And you know who's catching the pitch? Bartolo Colon.
Ooh.
So let's hope those guys bring the Mets some good energy. I appreciate everybody again that, are a part of these streams. Whether you're new to Rob's channel and my channel, again, this is streamed to both of our channels. Make sure you subscribe. Welcome on board. We got you all for postseason coverage. We're not there. I cover the Rangers. I'm doing a Rangers post game tonight with my guy Aaron that's in the chat here. First game of the season. It's going to be awesome. But we are doing the Mets post game show on the channel as well. So please, I believe this stream is going to redirect on both of our sides to our post games. Hit those thumbs up buttons on the pregame right here and on the post game. It helps the streams out a lot in terms of just navigating us into the YouTube algorithm and pushing our names out there. We definitely appreciate it. Bottom line is that, we appreciate and we love talking Mets baseball. It would not be the same if you all didn't show up on a daily basis. Let's go Rangers, as Ethan is saying. But, most importantly, we have all season to get to hockey. We have all season, right, to get to the basketball season that's coming up. The Mets are trying to do something and punch their ticket to a series that nobody thought they would even sniff. They laughed at this team for even having those kind of aspirations. To be honest with you, I don't think either one of us saw a potential ticket to a championship series, which they are only one game away from. Like, this is something that the Mets have an opportunity to do something special here. So, again, thank you all for being here. Let's go Mets. Let's get the job done, man. Let's win a ball game. I'm excited. Let's do it.
Yeah. End their misery, right? Torture them. Beat them. Put the Philly fans out of their misery. I want to hear them crying on Philadelphia Sports Talk Radio tomorrow. How do we lose to the Mets? That's what I want to hear. I want them to hear them cry like babies tomorrow. But more importantly, there's still a lot to be done. There's still work to be done. It's not over until you finish the job. The hardest game to win is the game to have you advance because of the team on the other side being that desperate to win by any means necessary. Game 4 is less than an hour away, guys. Quintana, Suarez. Mets looking to advance to the NLCS. Win at home and advance to the NLCS for the first time since 2000. 24 years, guys. Been a very, very long time. Let's have a celebration at Citi Field with Grimace, Haktua, OMG. I know, find something else. Pimp, whatever you want to find. Anything you want to find. A dog, whatever you want to find. With that said, guys, thank you for tuning in to the Amazing Mets pregame show. We will be with you right after the game. Mets postgame, win or lose. We'll see you later tonight, guys. Let's go Mets and enjoy the game.
Change the narrative. Let's go Mets.
Meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life because the Mets are really soccer.